In the summer of 480 BC, at a narrow strip of land known ominously as the Hot Gates, a pungent miasma of sulphur hung heavy in the air. Overhead, steam swirled like spectral warriors stalking the cliffs. Here, the Greek world stood defiant, their road to freedom no wider than 20 shields across. Across the sea, the earth trembled beneath the feet of Xerxes' horde, a rumbling prelude to a conflict that promised to reshape empires. Amidst this chaos, the fate of countless souls was bound to the whims of kings and seers, as politics and prophecies intertwined with the desperation of a few who dared to defy an empire. Let us step into the past, where the earth hisses with steam, and the air is thick with tales untold. Here at Thermopylae, known as the Hot Gates, an extraordinary story begins. It's a story that blends the beautiful and the terrifying, a moment frozen at the edge of myth and history. At the heart of ancient Thermopylae, the land breathed with an otherworldly vibrance. Sulphur springs bubbled and murmured, casting hues that were both mesmerising and strange. The name Hot Gates not only alludes to the heat, but suggests an entry into something timeless and forbidding. The overwhelming smell of sulphur, akin to rotten eggs, weaved into the fabric of local legends, marking the land with both divine and cursed significance. Geographically, Thermopylae shaped the fate of nations. According to Strabo's accounts and modern LiDAR profiles, this natural fortress, a narrow passage squeezed between cliffs and wet marshlands, was as if the mountains themselves conspired to create a perfect endpoint for a desperate defence. Travellers through this narrow pass faced geological as well as human adversaries. The soundscape added another layer to the mystique. Imagine the constant hiss of steam, the soft rush of waters, and the gentle rustle of leaves caught by the wind. These sounds painted a setting not only vibrant, but also haunting, a symphony of nature playing perpetually at the Hot Gates. Despite their beauty, the geophysical characteristics of Thermopylae were a double-edged sword, formidable in defence but also making life precarious for those living nearby. Yet those who stood there felt as though they were standing at the edge of time itself, the weight of history at their backs and the uncertainties of the future looming ahead. Residents knew these sounds well. They symbolised the land's dual nature, both sanctuary and snare. At its tightest, the pass narrowed to 20 shields wide, a strategic boon for Greek defenders. This constriction at Thermopylae acted as a choke point, a tactical gift from the harsh landscape that funneled invading forces onto a narrow trail, faced by seasoned warriors in tight formation. For ancient armies, geography was as vital as strategy. Here, tactics were dictated not just by generals, but by the very nature of the land. This road became a crucible, a measure of the mettle of all who dared to tread it. The Hot Gates were not just a battlefield, but a testing ground, leaving an indelible mark on history. In the unfolding drama of Thermopylae, the rebuilt Phocian wall stood silently, a steadfast guardian of the pass. This wall was more than a physical barrier of stone and mortar. It was a line of hope, a psychological boundary of defiance against the advancing Persians. Archaeological findings suggest that it was as much a psychological barrier as a physical one. The Greeks, inspired by tales of past heroics, erected this wall stone by stone, a resilient monument to their intent to preserve their land and honour against overwhelming odds. But Thermopylae was more than a strategic location. It was a tapestry interwoven with the cultural and spiritual life of the Greeks. Myths and legends of gods and mythical creatures clung to its cliffs and springs, adding depth to its physical presence. These stories served not just as entertainment, but as a framework through which people found meaning in the dangerous beauty surrounding them. Here, the landscape was a participant in history, a narrative woven into oral history, making it not just an inert backdrop, but an active player in the events of the age. Approaching the hot gates, travellers inhaled the sulphuric air, mingled with the earthy scent of the trampled path, and the metallic tang of distant dread. These sensory experiences reflected both an embrace of and a resistance to nature's relentless challenges. Soldiers and civilians etched these impressions onto the tablets of their memories, each step along this arduous path a testament to survival. Thermopylae, alive with every scent and sound, emerged as a character in its own right, a powerful force writing its story through those who dared to venture across it. The mythos of Thermopylae extended into spirituality, where earthly and divine realms overlapped like steam rising into air. Oracles, revered as the repositories of divine wisdom, were believed to sway significant events. The pronouncements of Delphi carried divine weight, weaving themselves into the decisions of generals and soldiers alike. At Thermopylae, these oracular insights merged with earthly actions, creating a tapestry of fate held together by both divine suggestion and human resolve. Beyond its role as a battlefield, Thermopylae symbolised connection for the Greek communities. Here, the collective consciousness of resistance against a common enemy was carved into the landscape. It represented not merely a geographic location, but a spirit of unity, binding tribes and cities into a bastion against the tide of empire. For those in nearby settlements, the pass was an emblem of resilience and tradition, a tangible link in the chain of their cultural identity. As travellers continued through the hot gates, they sensed more than stone and history. They felt the essence of time itself. Legend merged with reality, layering experiences beneath towering cliffs. The sulphur-laden air was perfumed with tales of ancient courage, stories retold through generations, transcending their chronological confines. Thermopylae remains a place where past and present whisper together, offering a timeless narrative. This intricate interplay of elements, mankind and myth set the stage for an epic encounter. Thermopylae, illuminated by sun-steamed cliffs and shadow, awaited its moment, a destiny that would transcend individual battles and linger forever as a testament to human courage. The hot gates became the arena, not just for confrontation, but for the forging of legends that echo through time. In the ancient realm of the Achaemenid Empire, a vast expanse stretched from the Indus Valley's verdant arms to the shimmering shores of the Aegean Sea. Born from the vision of Cyrus the Great, and fortified by Darius I, the empire had become an intricate mosaic of cultures and tongues. Yet it was under Xerxes, a king viewed by his subjects almost as a deity, chosen by Ahura Mazda, that the empire prepared to unleash its greatest campaign. Xerxes' ambition to subjugate Greece was not merely a quest for conquest. It was a demonstration of Achaemenid power, a vivid signal to the world of an empire's strength, woven together by the loyalty of its satraps and the unified force of its people. The empire's backbone was its sophisticated administration. Each satrap, overseeing a province, reported to the king, allowing efficient mobilization across countless miles. Xerxes' army was a testament to this, a vibrant tapestry of warriors each bearing unique armour and skills, yet fighting under a single banner. This was not just a military endeavour, it was a saga of logistical prowess, requiring careful coordination of food and materials across unfriendly terrains. Xerxes sought not only to expand his realm, but to avenge his father's defeat at Marathon, intertwining his ambition with the personal call for retribution. To cross the Hellespont was a grand ambition. Xerxes commanded a feat of engineering that defied nature itself, building a bridge of boats held together by papyrus and flax. This pontoon bridge, remarkable in scale, echoed with the relentless march of soldiers, a living monument to Persian ingenuity. Herodotus described the spectacle, a myriad of men and beasts traversing a sea that had dutifully bent to their master's will, a chilling testament to the empire's might. Craftsmen and labourers from across the empire worked relentlessly to bind this structure against the Hellespont's ferocious currents, turning a natural boundary into a mere stepping stone for conquest. Feeding such an army was peculiarly challenging, a logistical puzzle of epic proportions. Accompanied by a trail of supply wagons stretching beyond the horizon, the Persian forces consumed astronomical quantities. Ancient ration tablets reveal the staggering movement of wheat, barley, and fish, each morsel reflecting a small but essential part of an incredible web of supply. In tandem, the Persian policy of extracting resources from conquered lands showcased a ruthlessness necessary to the empire's survival. As Xerxes' forces consumed every resource in their path, they left behind a scar upon the land, a testament to their transient but voracious presence. The campaign was guided by meticulous planning. The Persian understanding of Greek geography was meticulously detailed, facilitated by the network of royal roads that carried intelligence and strategic insight. Maps and reports compiled over years by Persian agents revealed the vulnerabilities and strengths of Greek defences. This comprehensive understanding allowed Xerxes to navigate the daunting landscapes with precision, anticipating Greek resistance and devising strategies to neutralise it. The advance mirrored the empire's ambition, methodical, assertive, and aware of the enemy's terrain. In tandem with land forces, the Persian navy played a crucial role. This mighty armada moved along the coast with the intention not only to supply and communicate, but to instill fear in those who watched its approach. As the fleet neared Euboea, its sheer size cast a looming shadow of conquest upon Greece. Each ship was part of a broader strategy to envelop Greece, acting both as instruments of war and messengers of Persia's formidable power. The approaching fleet was a harbinger of the battles to come, a maritime demonstration of the empire's strategic brilliance. Yet, for all its might, whispers of discontent fed the empire's undercurrents. Even as Xerxes marshalled his legions, anxiety simmered among the ranks. The scope of his ambition sparked fears of hubris, a concern that the gods themselves might frown on his unruly assertion over the Hellespont. The paths converged into a single narrative of tension, where cultural diversity risked becoming a seedbed for dissent, threatening the unity vital for success. Greek city-states, meanwhile, were not ignorant of the looming threat. Although initially fragmented in their efforts, they gradually began to coordinate, dispatching spies to gather intelligence on Xerxes' vast armada. Greek scouts, deeply familiar with their homeland's intricacies, relayed valuable insights into Persian positions. Their efforts were indicative of an emerging resistance, a desperate response kindled by the fear of annihilation. One that ultimately sought to counter the Persian advance with creativity and unity. As the Persian army finally moved across the Hellespont, Xerxes watched as his soldiers tread a path of boats so audacious it felt divinely sanctioned. The crossing marked more than a strategic maneuver. It was a rite of passage where Xerxes' might was realised, an echoing proclamation of his resolve. For the Greeks, this was a daunting revelation, a prelude to the epic conflict that awaited. Here, at this threshold, the seeds of destiny germinated, heralding an engagement that would not merely shift boundaries, but define the ethos and stories of nations for centuries to come. In the summer of 480 BC, an air thick with tension enveloped Sparta. On the brink of war, the city-state was paradoxically bound to peace by the Carneia festival, a sacred observance dedicated to Apollo. This annual rite was not just a festival, it was a critical part of the Spartan identity, intertwining religion and governance in an intricate dance between divine decree and military urgency. As the Persians amassed across the Aegean, the Spartans were caught in a spiritual dilemma, forced to reconcile their fervent warrior ethos with the sacred peace commanded by their gods. Herodotus captures this irony well, a warrior society, momentarily staying its hand not out of fear, but fidelity to divine edict. To outsiders it might seem baffling to prioritise a festival over warfare, but for Spartans their faith was interwoven with every decision, no less significant than military strategies. This complexity permeated deeper into Spartan politics as well, presenting the need to select the 300 men who would stand immortalised in history at Thermopylae. This selection was less about sheer strength and more a deliberate choice, wrapped in symbolism and future legacy. Only those who were fathers of living sons were chosen, ensuring their offspring would remember and propagate their memory. Plutarch's chronicle poignantly captures this strategy, reflecting a calculated balance between pragmatic continuity and emotional resonance. By choosing warriors with heirs, Sparta guaranteed that their lineage, and by extension their culture, would persevere beyond the inevitable horizon of their imminent conflict. Amidst these preparations stood the Helots, a subdued but integral force behind the Spartan offensive. Usually relegated to the shadows of historical narrative, these subjugated peoples ensured that Spartan warriors could march swiftly into war. They bore the weight of logistics, carrying supplies, maintaining the chain of provision, and shoulder to shoulder, though unarmed, with their Spartan masters. Archaeological findings at Messene hint at their silent yet essential roles, challenging the typical tales of Spartan valour dominated by the elite. The Helots' existence was paradoxical, indispensable yet constantly oppressed, their fate bound with that of their masters, as they trudged toward immortality or oblivion in the narrow pass of Thermopylae. At this intersection of resolve and history stood Leonidas, the Spartan king whose choices were to carve lasting imprints across time. His leadership was not perched above the fray, rather it was forged in the crucible of shared struggle, walking among his men, embodying the Spartan ideal in a form both magnetic and potent. This embodiment was more than a mirroring of martial tradition. It was a weaving of personal identity into a collective ethos of defiance. Leonidas shaped his narrative, not through royal edict, but genuine kinship, binding his legacy tightly with those who fought alongside him, crafting the resistance into an emblem of unified rebellion against overwhelming might. Intertwined with these earthly developments were the ethereal currents of fate and prophecy, factors that weighed heavily upon Spartan shoulders. The oracle's seismic influence, especially Delphi's cryptic portents, were often as decisive as tangible orders. These prophetic puzzles added layers of premonition to Spartan affairs, yet rather than an ominous paralysis, they infused the Spartans with a unique resolve. an acceptance of fate as an eternal dance of destiny they could still influence through valour and tenacity. This cultural resilience transformed their fear into understanding, shaping a society indelibly aware of its fate, yet determined to rewrite its finale through courage and faith. As the 300 prepared for battle, this convergence of martial and spiritual readiness translated into a ritualistic mobilization. The soldiers engaged in sacred rites, the anointing of olive oils, reflecting solemnly on omens, submitting prayers, an immersion where faith and warfare became indistinguishable. This elaborate precursor bolstered morale, instilling a transcendental confidence that transcended the mere physicality of confrontation. The Spartan warriors stepped onto the field not as solitary combatants, but as representatives woven from threads of divine approval and steadfast heritage. The minutiae of Spartan society, its dichotomies and contradictions, painted a society of striking contrasts and ironies, particularly in the sharpening prelude to Thermopylae. Spartans and Helots existed within a complex relationship, militarily dependent yet socially distinct, illustrating a clash of class identities masked by the shared threat of Persian advances. While aristocrats anticipated heroic legacy, Helots contributed unacknowledged, each inhabiting a nuanced role within a shared story scrawled against the backdrop of inevitable conflict. Embedded in their very core was the Spartan acceptance of mortality, a principle hardened through the rigours of agoge, a brutal education system forging youth into steely warriors, accepting life's finite nature. This acceptance was less a resignation and more a celebration. Every death became a testament to their honour, a final act fulfilling the grand narrative of Spartan duty enshrined in their cultural conscience. These ingrained teachings elevated death beyond mere potentiality into a venerated completion of their destined role amid the fog of war perpetuated by prophetic shadows. Amidst customs improbable to modern sensibilities, Spartan life existed as a testament to their unwavering principle, one that seamlessly entwined personal and public duty. Marriages arranged through strength, homes built in the echoes of past glories, and warcraft celebrated like sacred rites, all exemplified a commitment to perpetuate an unyielding legacy. This portrait of Spartan society, from its traditions to its tribulations, provides a captivating drama of human endurance and cultural steadfastness, echoing through the ages as figures of both storied valiance and relentless fidelity. The spectre of Xerxes' army encroached like a looming storm, pressing the Greek city-states into a fateful choice. Could they defy their ancient rivalries and unite to face this colossal threat? Herodotus invites us into a world where fierce independence defined cities, and Greeks quarrelled amongst themselves as passionately as they did against outsiders. Yet the dire realization of a common enemy forced unlikely alliances. This coalition was not born of camaraderie, but of necessity. A truce among siblings who could squabble, but never allow another to seize control of their family's legacy. Epigraphic decrees from the Hellenic League stand silent yet potent, bearing witness to whispered negotiations and uneasy commitments made in the smoky glow of flickering lamps. Skepticism pervaded as these ancient rivals signed agreements of unity, casting wary glances toward the Persian horizon. Amid this assembly were the Thespians, who stood out not for their might or wealth, but for their zealous resolve. Unlike others bound by treaties or political obligations, they stepped forward of their own volition, driven by fervent patriotism and a profound commitment to Greece's freedom. A fragmentary shield bearing the inscription Thespies remains a tangible testament to their commitment, a poignant relic of devotion from men who left their homes defenceless to stand beside a Spartan king. Their leader Demophilus embodied this ardour, choosing sacrifice over surrender. With unmatched fervour, these citizens embraced their inevitable fate, marching towards it with pride and honour. In contrast, the motivations of the Thebans were tangled in political intrigue. Partially coerced by Leonidas, they found their allegiance suspect. Herodotus paints a picture of alliances teetering on the edge, where friends and foes blurred. For the Thebans, caught between Greek kin and Persian proximity, neutrality seemed tempting. However, Xerxes' threat pressed them into the melee, their presence at the pass as much a strategy of containment as a military necessity. This political chess game reflected the intricate diplomatic realities of Greece, where survival often outweighed ideological purity. Tasked with guarding the perilous Anopeia path, the Phocians bore an immense burden. Leonidas, acutely aware of the terrain's significance, entrusted those familiar with every crag and crevice. Their duty was both daunting and vital. Failure would gift the Persians a strategic advantage, encircling Greek forces. The forested paths they defended whispered tales of vulnerability amid human resolve, their claws clinging to the hopes of their people. Their stand symbolised not just valour against an overwhelming foe, but the looming presence of fate's dark irony. Central to this unfolding drama was Leonidas, standing as the epitome of Spartan valour amid the chaos. His leadership transcended mere martial prowess. It was embedded in strategic genius and cultural legacy. By selecting 300 fathered soldiers, Leonidas ensured Sparta's lineage, even at great personal cost. His choice spoke volumes of Spartan ethos, a legacy marked by sacrifice and a tactical mind that steered Greece towards unified resistance. This monumental testament of leadership left an indelible mark long after the dust had settled. The distant rumble of the Persian advance cast shadows across the land, transforming even the most senior Greek warriors into anxious figures reminiscent of Ctesias' estimations of Persian might. The empire's formidable power lingered long before its appearance, challenging Greek resolve. Here, under the weight of this massive adversary, unity among the allies became both their strength and their fragile Achilles' heel. Persian opulence and military arrogance redefined the Greeks' internal dynamics, urging them to transcend deep-seated identities in favour of collective survival. Amidst the tense engagement, whispers of diplomacy floated, hinting at possible overtures to Xerxes. Ancient epigraphs hint at these negotiations' delicate dance, illustrating the fine line straddled by city-states contemplating their futures under Persian dominion or within the fold of Hellenic coalition. Xerxes' persuasive hegemony injected further complexity into the Greeks' decisions, forcing them towards epiphanies of shared Greeks' destinies over provincial interests. Integral to their preparations was the fusion of religion, with gods invoked and omens deciphered. These divine messages permeated strategic decisions, subtly influencing generals and warriors alike. In fields sanctified by sacrifice and offering, Greek defenders found more than just courage, but a sense of purpose, imbued with a destiny believed to be guided by divine beings. In their unwavering faith, they harnessed an additional shield, dictated more by the auguries than mere intuition of spear and shield. Despite underlying tensions within the makeshift alliance, they forged bonds of brotherhood in the fires of war, an unexpected boon from shared adversity. cities once fiercely independent found kinship in common cause, each warrior evolving from a soldier to a piece in the grander narrative of resistance. They discovered the wealth embedded within their diversity, a unity born not just from necessity, but from a solidarity rooted in shared sacrifice. Thus, as they faced the unparalleled might of the Persian Empire, the Greeks wove their fates together in a legacy that reached beyond Thermopylae's narrow pass. In this crucible, amid passions and precarious negotiations, the integrity of their alliance emerged, brandished not just as a tactical formation, but as the living fabric of Greek ethos, preserved in tales of unyielding resolve. At dawn the sun crept over the horizon, casting its ethereal glow on the rugged terrain of Thermopylae. Here lay the Phocian wall, a stone sentinel standing firm in the narrow passageway, where the fate of an empire would be decided. Rebuilt by the Greeks, it was both a physical barrier and a symbol of defiance, the earth itself raised in stubborn resistance against the advancing Persians. Herodotus chronicled this defensive line, while discoveries of iron spearheads from 1939 give us a glimpse into the preparations made by the warriors who would soon fight for their lives. With steadfast hands, Phocian stonemasons and soldiers reassembled the wall as a testament to their courage, a bastion upon which they could pin their fragile hope. As the morning light unfolded, the air became charged with tension, a charged anticipation whispering through the ranks of Greek soldiers. Through the chill, the distant rumble of the Persian advance began its ominous approach. The army of Xerxes, vast and disciplined, moved like a giant tide, eager to test not just the stone wall, but the very souls of the gathered Greeks. The sound of marching feet echoed through the narrow pass, mingling with the sense of fear and sweat, as each Greek warrior braced for the impending clash. Their shields, pressed into formation against the inevitable slaughter, told of hopeless valour. As the first light touched the battlefield, the symphony of war erupted. The clattering of metal, the guttural shouts of combat, the overwhelming urgency of survival. Within the constrained space of the hot gates, the Greeks and Persians became locked in brutal engagement, raw and chaotic. It was in these moments that the iron spearheads, once lying dormant beneath the earth, now flew through the air, piercing leather and flesh indiscriminately. Herodotus speaks to the relentless funneling of Persian ranks into the organised grinder of the Greek phalanx, each striker beat in the grim chorus of legend. Before this chaos, the warriors of Thermopylae had performed sacred rituals, invoking gods and ancestors in a final plea for favour. The scent of incense filled the early air, thick with hope and reverence, a binding force that would steel their hearts. These rituals, inscribed alongside the drill manual rigour of the phalanx, gave the soldiers a sacred rhythm. In these tight quarters, muscle and spirit fused together, creating a dance that spoke of dignity amid desperation. Each warrior, drenched in the morning's blood promise, was far more than a fighter. He was the keeper of lineage and hope. In the dusty and cramped corridor, the phalanx was a living wall, a seamless barrier of shields and spears. Hardened by terrain and steeped in trust, they held fast against the Persian tides. Movement within the phalanx was precise, disciplined, a lethal choreography honed by necessity and tradition. Thunderous echoes rebounded off the stone walls as this human machine shifted and struck, turning the chaos of battle into methodical exertion. For the Persians, each confrontation with this unyielding front was not just a tactical challenge, but a testament to the resolve that brimmed within their Greek foes. The Persian forces, formidable and diverse, descended with the might of carefully orchestrated force. Their image, painted by Herodotus, is one of splendid armoury and elite units likened to an eternal machine, a relentless drive to swallow the Greeks whole. Yet, the very geography they hoped to exploit now became their adversary. Packed into the narrow corridor, their manoeuvres stifled against Greek discipline. Persian warriors faltered, unable to bring their numbers to bear. As ancient reliefs testified, these proud elites, their armour gleaming under a Greek sun, found themselves undone by the fractured ground that fought back as hard as the spears that met them. Weapons glinted in the heat of battle as essential instruments of survival and symbols of defiance. These artefacts, forged by the hands of destined smiths, bore tales as powerful as those who wielded them. Iron spearheads from ancient days connect us across centuries to warriors who face their fears headlong with weaponry, balanced on the cusp between art and utility. Each clash, each cry reverberated in spectacle across time. Amid the strife, the stones bore witness to silent sagas, untouched by scroll or stanza. Herodotus captured their essence in his writings, each note of combat leaving an imprint upon the rugged topography. Paths lined with the echoes of courage and loss tell stories to traveller and scholar alike. Hints of glory found in the dormant echoes that linger on rocks worn by the weight of history. The battle at Thermopylae was more than a collision of armies. It was a defining event crafted by the values, hopes and blood of those who stood against a tide so much larger than themselves. Their sacrifice etched into legends, the clash between stone and soul, remains a testament to humanity's enduring spirit against the encroaching darkness, a lesson inscribed in the silent witnesses of the hot gates. As dawn broke over Thermopylae, the narrow pass lay silent, a witness to the ferocity that had unfolded mere hours before. The dust mingled with the metallic tang of blood, a testament to the prior day's carnage. Despite the exhaustion clinging to their bodies, the Greeks stood ready, their phalanx an unyielding bastion of spears and shields under the rising sun. They knew the Persian forces were vast, yet the terrain favoured them, and their resolve remained ironclad. The Persians advanced with relentless determination, driven by Xerxes' confidence in their overwhelming numbers. The cries of officers and the rhythmic thud of drums signalled another wave of onslaught. Yet a flicker of hope ignited among the Greeks. Having withstood one of the largest armies the world had ever seen, they felt the weight of their strategy take hold. This spark of morale was a crucial element, lighting the fire of spirit in each warrior. Wave upon wave of Medes approached, undeterred by previous losses. Their ferocity, nurtured by a reputation as formidable fighters, resonated through their war cries as each man pushed forward in dense formations. Short, curved swords clashed against Greek shields, and their tiered armaments sought to breach the phalanx. But the Greeks, fortified by the rugged terrain, held their ground. The Medes struck with desperate tenacity, yet fell, marking not progress, but the grounds littered with comrades. In response, the Persians unleashed a new tactic, a rain of arrows that sought to blot out the sun. A terrifying move meant to overwhelm. The sky darkened as thousands of arrows descended with deadly precision. Herodotus speaks of this in hyperbolic terms, describing how daylight turned to night, yet the Greeks, shields raised, weathered the storm. The phalanx stood unbroken, their unity a testament to their resilience, bolstered by heavy armour and stoic courage. Then the Immortals emerged, Persia's elite, known for their precision and fearsome reputation. They moved with unnerving fluidity, dressed in ornate armour and bearing deadly sickle swords. Yet the Greeks, unfazed, saw this as merely another test. Their disciplined phalanx met the onslaught with brutal efficiency, every clash echoing strength against strategy. This battle was not Persian dominance manifest, but a continuous trial of endurance. The clash intensified as the day wore on. Spears shattered against shields, and the air grew thick with the scent of iron and sweat. Chaos reigned as each soldier fought not just for survival, but for the man beside him. The phalanx's rigid discipline meant that even as arms tired and shields grew heavy, the Greeks ceded no ground without a Herculean fight. The battlefield became a fractured landscape of splintered wood and bloodied armour, yet the Greeks' resolve never faltered. Amidst this concert of violence, personal tales of bravery and dread unfolded. Veteran Spartans executed their strategies with a precision honed over years, while the novice allies, Thebans and Thespians, were baptized by fire. In quiet moments between skirmishes, camaraderie flickered briefly, a shared joke, a comforting clasp, to remind each man of shared humanity amidst war, amplifying their personal stakes. As they fought on, the casualties began to mount, patches of the ground becoming grim reminders of the battle's toll. The sun set over warriors who had fallen, each passing into the timeless weave of history. Grief mingled with unyielding resolve, and the moans of the wounded underscored a relentless symphony of clashing arms and determined steps, a tragic reflection of sacrifice. Watching from his vantage, Xerxes grew impatient. Accustomed to swift victories, he now faced unexpected resistance. His imperial demands turned urgent, each assault repelled by Greek tactics and resilient defence. The battle became personal, a bitter contest between might and defiant resistance, a testament to the grit of determined Greeks against Persian ambition. As the day waned, nature joined the fray. Dark clouds gathered, unleashing a tempest that mirrored the chaos below. Rain hammered warriors from above, making the ground slick and treacherous. These unholy elements obscured the memory of battle in shrouded darkness, a cruel testament to the enduring human struggle. Night fell, and a hush blanketed the landscape. Soldiers regrouped, bodies weary, yet minds fixed on the battle's uncertain fate. Thermopylae, scarred by war, now held stories of valour and sacrifice. For the Greeks, there was pride in enduring another day, an acknowledgement of their unyielding spirit. For the Persians, the starless sky brought reflection, their strategies recalibrating under its solemnity. Both sides awaited the coming storm, consumed by the intertwined hopes and fears of history unfolding before a new dawn. Ephialtes of Trachis emerges from the mists of history as a figure whose name is synonymous with betrayal. The story often told speaks of greed, of a man driven by the shimmer of Persian gold, yet the reality is wrapped in deeper shadows. It's a tale influenced by the volatile interactions among the rival city-states of Greece, where local loyalties could pivot on a dime, swayed by survival instincts or the lure of fortune. In this landscape of constant strife and shifting alliances, Ephialtes' decision to reveal the Anapeia path wasn't merely treachery for profit. It reflected the desperate calculus of a turbulent region. Was Ephialtes truly motivated by cold pragmatism, or was he a pawn, ensnared by circumstances beyond his control? Historical narratives, particularly those emerging from societies of oral tradition, often simplify complex characters into symbols of right and wrong. The necessity for Sparta to blame their defeat on a singular villain overshadows the possibility of coercion or deeper grievances held by Ephialtes. Life in the rugged terrain of Trachis was unforgiving, its people often marginalised, outsiders to the grand plots of Greek politics. These subtler realities add layers to his fateful decision, underscoring not only a critical wartime action, but the intricate interplay of human fallibility and ambition. The Anapeia path, a covert thread through the mountainous fabric above Thermopylae, was a strategic secret, as potent as any weapon in the battle for dominance. This shadowy trail through dense oaks and shrouding fog offered a hidden way that could tip the scales of conflict dramatically. Its sheer existence turned the Greek stronghold from a fortress to a vulnerable choke point. Modern explorers with their tools of reconstruction illuminate how this path snaked through daunting ridgelines, revealing how this concealed corridor allowed for the possibility of subverting a seemingly insurmountable defence. Meanwhile, the Phocians, tasked to guard this strategically critical path, stood as a vanguard against flanking actions. Their numbers, roughly 1,000 men familiar with the rugged terrain, faced off against an enemy unseen but ever present in their ambition. Withstanding the pressure meant blocking the ancestral shortcut amidst oaks and shadows. However, despite their preparedness, the Phocian warriors found themselves caught in a sudden storm of Persian aggression, blindsided in what some regard as a fatal oversight. Whether interpreted as failure or a tactical retreat, their actions echo the chaos intrinsic to war, a theatre for courage undergirded by unforeseen contingencies. As night swallowed the path, Ephialtes undertook an audacious journey, underscoring the timeless impact of stealth in warfare. His midnight climb, navigating treacherous paths with Persians in tow, transformed the landscape into a stage for silent actions that roared with consequence. The world's forces moved not with the daytime's clangour, but with the muted footsteps of men entrenched in desperate determination. In this stillness, the doom of those guarding the gates below was sealed, with Ephialtes leading the way, a ghost in a land where shadows whispered victory. The sight of Persian soldiers appearing atop the ridge, shields glinting in the subdued light of dawn, marked a palpable shift. These wicker shields represented the adaptive strength of an empire, a flexible wall defying the Greeks' solid defences. As the Persians advanced, their presence brought a psychological blow, as potent as any physical confrontation, signalling Ephialtes' betrayal's fruition. The Greek warriors below, sensing the encirclement, grappled with an inevitable reality, the convergence of treachery and tactic. The encompassing Persian strategy, with Ephialtes as its catalyst, clutched Greek hopes within an iron grasp, compressing morale with each advancing step. Defenders felt their courageous stand mired in the inescapable clutch of encirclement. As the noose of Persian forces tightened, the sense of being outmanoeuvred seeped past the armour of steel and spirit, casting about despair woven with strands of unwelcome inevitability. Nature, once a formidable ally for the Greeks, now facilitated their greatest test. The very land that shielded them turned traitor through its silent pathways and obscured vantage points. Ephialtes' calculated manoeuvre highlight the duality inherent in nature's embrace, where sanctuary turned into a corridor for betrayal under night's cloak. The consequences of Ephialtes' betrayal echo beyond that fateful night, marking an indelible testimony upon the annals of time. This singular act, while shaping Greek defences, also crafted a timeless moral lesson about the enduring costs of disloyalty, sentiments etched into eternity. Yet from betrayal's ashes, heroic resolve flared bright and defiant. Leonidas and his men, facing certain encirclement, embraced their legendary fate. The resolve, when cornered, illuminated the bounds of human endurance, supreme in its clarity and resolve. Thermopylae's legacy, through Ephialtes' ignoble path, reverberates as a solemn reflection on the essence of treachery and the resonance of honour. Ephialtes, rendered fully human in flaw and faction, becomes an ever-turning mirror, casting light upon motivations that transcend the boundaries of time. His story entwines with the stark human themes of greed, desperation, and coercion, showing how history's dramas unfold within the hearts of men caught between the towering forces of fate and choice. As the first light of dawn crept over the rugged peaks, a crimson hue painted the battlefield at Thermopylae, signalling the onset of a day that would seal the fate of Leonidas and his brave Spartans. The air was thick with the mingled scents of blood and fear, underlined by the tension of their impending doom. The previous night had been a quiet desert of anticipation, heavy with murmurings of heroism and inevitable sacrifice. Standing stalwart amidst his men, King Leonidas surveyed the landscape with a calm acceptance, aware that this ground would etch their names into eternity. The serenity of the early morning belied the violence that would soon erupt on Kolonos Hill, every rise and fall of the terrain a silent witness to the struggle that history would not forget. In the clear morning light, the Spartans prepared for the day's desperation, their armour gleaming defiantly under the sun's ascent. Outnumbered yet unwavering, they knew that their sacrifice was more than the narrative of a battle. It was a beacon for Greece. Facing the expanse of land they swore to defend, stretching towards a distant sea, their hearts mirrored the sun's glow, a luminous elegy to their final act of defiance. Leonidas stood as a symbol of their resolve, his courage infiltrating the hearts of his men, his leadership a testament to the Spartan ethos, under siege but never broken. Against this backdrop of imminent mortality, Leonidas was more than a king. He was the embodiment of Spartan courage. His gaze rested with unyielding confidence on his men, each one chosen not only for prowess but for their understanding of the eternal duty they bore. This was a burden carried as honour, not arrogance, as the Persian banners loomed near. His decision to hold Thermopylae's narrow pass resonated with duty, not just for Sparta, but for a Greece on the brink. Their stand was a blend of skill and sacred obligation, merging into a kaleidoscope of hope and resilient bravery that would stand against the Persian tide. As the morning evolved, the geography of Kolonos Hill became a cruel ally, an adversary. The hill's strategic view over the hot gates and its scarred landscape testified to the battle's recent ravages. This ancient terrain, once firm and reliable beneath warriors' feet, now lay burdened with the detritus of war, splintered spears and discarded shields, the remnants of trials fought fiercely. This was a place where earth and history conspired, a natural bottleneck chosen by the Greeks for its tactical advantage. Here, vast Persian numbers meant nothing without room to manoeuvre. Kolonos Hill, bounded by marshlands and cliffs, stood defiant, a silent bastion in memory. The clash of steel and human life commenced as the Persian forces advanced, the Spartans meeting their might with a phalanx formation rooted in unity and precision. The air vibrated with the cacophony of war, screams smashing shields, and the brittle snap of spears, merging into a symphony of sacrifice. Under this orchestrated tumult, the Spartans held their ground, each clang of metal a resonance of defiance and courage, the weight of legacy heavy but righteously borne. The sun's climb mirrored their ascent into immortality, a crescendo of resolve unfaltering as the Persian tide smashed against their bronze wall. The battlefield was a collage of humanity, a fierce mosaic where desperation and valour were writ large on contorted faces, shouting defiance, evoking a choral paean of suffering and triumph. Interwoven in this melee, panicked horses reared in terror, joining the chaotic symphony with cries that transcended the simple clash of armies. It was a mingling of lives, each thread a vital narrative within the tapestry of conflict, a union of warriors and beasts, woven together by the urgent pulse of life amid death's sure embrace. Centuries later, beneath the silent whispers of Kolonos Hill, archaeology unearthed intertwined human and animal bones, a grim testament to war's ferocity. Fallen foes, once adversaries, now lay together, indiscriminately grasped by death. From these remains, a collection of shattered bronze spears and fractured skulls, historians reconstructed this epic stand, peeling back layers of history to glimpse the hearts of those who gave their last in the shadow of annihilation. Through these echoes, the narrative breathes, reminding future generations of the visceral weight of sacrifice. At the core of this narrative stands Simonides' eternal epitaph. Stranger, announce to the Spartans that we lie here, obedient to their laws. These words, simple yet potent, chiselled into stone, endure beyond the passage of mere history, dissecting the essence of duty and valour spanning the ages. More than mere commemoration, this epitaph echoes across time. Speaking of courage and sacrifice, embedding this moment within the soul of humanity, turning a historical footnote into a timeless invocation. Lastly, the legacy of Thermopylae, etched in bronze and stone, extends beyond memorials and possessing the essence of unparalleled bravery and the human spirit's endurance. In remembering Leonidas and his 300, their heroic stand becomes more than a moment frozen in time. It is a symbol, a narrative contemplating duty, heroism, and the fierce price of freedom. As generations pass, the tale persists, a perpetual reminder that even against overwhelming odds, the spirit can transform history through courage and unified resolve. Amidst the chaos of the battlefield, a grim tableau unfolded as the severed head of Leonidas, the fallen Spartan king, was mounted on a spear by Xerxes' command. This act of brutality surpassed the typical horrors of war, revealing the deep-seated hatred and intimidation Leonidas had stirred within the Persian king. Xerxes, his pride bruised by resistance, aimed to shatter Greek morale. Yet this gruesome spectacle backfired, turning Leonidas into a symbol of defiant heroism. In a world where proper burial rites were revered, the desecration of his body was more than an insult. It was a curse threatening his peace in the afterlife, ironically strengthening the Greek resolve. The psychological warfare at play was as impactful as the battles themselves. While unsettling by today's standards, these acts were rooted in the spiritual and cultural dynamics of the time. Xerxes' actions, instead of demoralizing the Greeks, cast Leonidas as a martyr, transforming the fallen king into a beacon of inspiration for the Greek city-states. Despite Herodotus and Ctesias offering conflicting casualty estimates, it's agreed that the Battle of Thermopylae was a costly endeavour for the Persians. The elite guard, the Immortals, suffered considerable losses, and this setback questioned the perception of Persian invincibility. The heavy cost for the Persians stretched beyond mere numbers on the battlefield. Xerxes' grand army faced logistical strains, with supply lines overextended across the hostile Greek terrain. Every logistical hiccup bred dissent within the ranks, from weary soldiers to frustrated supply commanders. While the Greeks paid heavily with their lives, losing many brave defenders, the battle bought them precious time. Greek city-states capitalized on this delay. Athens, for instance, evacuated its citizens to the safety of Salamis, preserving the cultural essence of the city. Meanwhile, Greek forces regrouped to prepare for the anticipated showdown at Salamis. Leveraging the intricate geography of narrow straits and rocky terrains to counterbalance the Persian naval might. The delay's strategic significance extended beyond its 2-day span, offering the Greeks a psychological edge. Faced with a rallying point, their spirits entwined in unity and shared purpose, the Greek city-states mounted a defence infused with renewed conviction. For Xerxes, Thermopylae was a Pyrrhic victory. His army, battered and disillusioned, limped forward, bearing scars no triumphant parade could conceal. The myth of Persian invincibility had been shattered, and the Greeks, emboldened, discovered resilience within their ranks. The narrative of Thermopylae, bathed in bitter irony, unfolded with each step of Xerxes' haunted advance. Persian aspirations were inevitably marred by underestimating the Greek spirit. Xerxes, blinded by arrogance, misread the Greeks' profound sense of civic pride and identity. This miscalculation allowed a short delay to morph into a strategic misstep, amplifying Greek resistance and determination. The Greeks' refusal to capitulate was a lesson in the strength of intangible assets, unity and shared purpose, proving formidable against material might. This overlooked tenacity ignited a flame that would eventually consume Persian ambitions. The battle's impact rippled forward, heralding a shift towards maritime confrontation at Salamis. The brilliance of Themistocles, the Athenian general, became the beacon for Greek naval forces mustering for engagement in the narrow straits of Salamis. The insights gained from Thermopylae's sacrifice provided both strategic foresight and a morale boost for the Greeks. As Xerxes directed his fleet towards what he anticipated to be a decisive encounter, Greek forces prepared to exploit the geographical dominance of the sea, cementing their heritage of defiant resistance. In time, Thermopylae transcended its own reality, emerging as a timeless symbol of courage against overwhelming odds. The Spartans' last stand echoed through history, stylized into the archetype of ultimate defiance. This myth-making process saw stories embellishing Greek valour, reshaping historical facts into narratives of sacrifice and extraordinary resistance, fueling cultural memory and resonance beyond mere military analysis. Reflecting on Thermopylae compels an understanding of profound endurance under dire circumstances. The tale invites interpretation through the ages, whether in classrooms or cultural forums, echoing lessons of resilience against external threats. The story's enduring legacy speaks to an unyielding spirit, offering insights into the motivations, strategies, and beliefs that resonate with contemporary societies. Beyond being a tale of war, it's a clarion call for an appreciation of cultural endurance, unity, and the power of belief amidst conflict. Thermopylae's whispers through time reveal an intersection of myth and history, where embellished fables and harsh realities converge. The tale, ripe with intimate details and human experiences, offers a historical narrative woven with philosophical and practical strands. The battle, though seemingly simple, reflects complex human motives, and the ebb and flow of strategic thought within historical consequence challenging us to navigate the subtle interplay of myth and reality. In the heart of ancient Greece, under skies familiar with both war and wonder, the Battle of Thermopylae stood immortalised by Simonides of Chios. His poignant epitaphs, part history, part elegy, captured the Spartan resolve and sacrifice in words that transcended time. "Stranger, announced to the Spartans," became more than a memorial. It echoed through the ages as a testament to noble defiance. Poetry, in the age when oral tradition painted history's canvas, bridged the gap between fact and legend, transforming a tactical delay into a tale of sacrifice. In doing so, Simonides laid the foundation of Greek cultural identity, a shared ethos inspired by Stoicism and bravery exemplified at Thermopylae. As time unfurled its relentless scroll, the story of Thermopylae was neither forgotten nor untouched. The Romans, entranced by Greek culture, absorbed this epic into their own narratives, expanding the legend and the immortal courage of Leonidas and his Spartans. By the time Renaissance scholars rediscovered classical texts, Thermopylae had evolved, romanticised across continents and time, touching the very core of ideals such as honour and patriotism. Artistic expressions flourished, morphing the story into a timeless parable of human struggle and sacrifice against insurmountable odds, resonating deeply through the ages. By the 2nd century, the fervour of memory carried Pausanias, a Greek traveller, to Thermopylae's hallowed grounds. In his writings, he described a terrain that had become synonymous with Greek tenacity, a site of layered memories where nobility had come face to face with annihilation. The battlefield was more than just soil and rock. It was a bastion of remembrance, a symbolic palpitation of defiance, recorded in stone and lore. Through Pausanias' eyes, we witness how this pilgrimage encapsulated both a personal and collective journey, where the present intertwined with the shadowed echoes of the past, reinforcing a cultural pride born from hardship and resilience. Fast forward to the 1950s when the Greek army initiated archaeological digs at Thermopylae, stirring the ghosts of history once more. The artefacts unearthed, spearheads, fragments of armour, and the enduring monument of the lion, provided tangible connections to the epic. These rediscoveries reinforced historical accounts and rekindled public fascination, breathing life into both academia and the broader cultural narrative. Media availability cast these findings into the global spotlight, a timeless chapter reborn for a world hungry for its roots. The re-erected lion monument emerged as a symbol of continuity, emblematic of a proud heritage standing resolute against the passage of time. Yet alongside the discovery and commemoration came scholarly debate. The exaggerated narratives of millions of Persian troops, originally chronicled by Herodotus, faced the scrutiny of modern historians. Through logistical analysis and archaeological evidence, scholars re-examined accepted figures, challenging these hyperbolic accounts with a fresh lens. This ongoing discourse illustrated the tension between storied myth and cold historical analysis, striving to honour the site's historical magnitude while grounding its story in verified reality. It dissected what had been romanticised, endeavouring to ensure that history emerges as a harmonious blend of legend and truth. Though grounded in historical discourse, Thermopylae's legacy extended far beyond academia. It became the archetype of the last stand, its narrative reverberating through literature, cinema, and art, as an enduring emblem of defiance against overwhelming odds. Modern storytelling often invokes Thermopylae's ethos, spotlighting its potent symbols of courage and sacrifice as timeless virtues. Whether in the impassioned rhythm of political speeches or motivational tales, the battle spirit lights a path for those facing their own adversities. Such portrayals underscore a fundamental truth about the human condition, echoing the resolve to stand firm in the face of inevitable defeat. Artists from all eras have found inspiration in Thermopylae's rich narrative, interpreting it across mediums with diverse lenses. From paintings and sculptures to novels and plays, the battle has served as a muse for creative exploration, charting the psychological depth and moral dilemmas faced by Greek warriors. Film, too, has perpetuated this tale. Movies like 300 capture the visceral clash of shield and spear with cinematic flair, blending history and artistic license to craft a spectacle that modernises its legendary essence. Each artistic endeavour interprets Thermopylae anew, inviting audiences to explore the core of its eternal message of valour. The physical revival of monuments like the lion sculpture in the mid-20th century symbolised more than remembrance. It embodied a resurgence of national pride and identity. Set against the backdrop of modern Greece, this act of restoration was a cultural assertion that reclaimed and celebrated a storied lineage. These physical commemoration efforts echo deeper motivations, emphasising Thermopylae's lasting impact on national ethos and historical continuity, fortifying the resolve to remember and honour ancient struggles that continue to shape identity. Education has carved a niche for Thermopylae as an instrument of teaching complex themes of history, leadership and ethics. By dissecting both the immediate tactical nuances and sweeping cultural tides, educators have used Thermopylae as a prism through which students can engage with broader societal narratives. Through this narrative, learners delve into the multiplicity of historic interpretation, scrutinising the myths and the forces that elevate certain stories above others within the collective memory. In the end, Thermopylae remains an eternal flame, a touchstone of inspiration for those who dream, fight and persevere against Sisyphean odds. Its saga, stripped of embellishment yet rich in legend, implores the world to recognise dignity and valour where strength meets overwhelming challenge. As we close this chapter, we invite you to like, subscribe, and join us in unveiling more tales that guide the human spirit across the chasm of time.